Welcome to the Hudson School District podcast series, Parenting with Pride.
Someone has probably said to you, don't worry when you've expressed anxious feelings. But worrying and anxiety is very normal and a necessary psychological and physiological response to stress. It's how we address anxiety that makes a difference.
Good morning, or afternoon, I guess. Today we are excited to have Willow River counselor Sarah Fleer with us to talk about worry, anxiety, stress, and how our littlest family members respond and react, with some helpful tips for managing that worry in your homes to help build up stamina for a successful school year. So Leah, Allison, Sarah with the Parenting with Pride podcast. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you.
Would you please define anxiety and stress in school-aged kids? I think we hear that phrase all the time. My kid feels anxious. I feel worried. I feel anxious. What does that mean? And what could it look like with our littlest crowd?
So with our littles, we see a lot of clinging. It might be a stomach ache every Sunday evening or a headache. There are a lot of physiological things that happen to us when we are experiencing stress and anxiety. And really, we all know that life is stressful, and there are good stresses. Going to school is a positive experience, but it's something new. And we talk to our elementary kids all the time about how when you experience something new, your brain tries to protect you because new things can be scary. When you think about a kindergartner walking into school for the very first time, even for our first graders, second graders, third who have been here, it's a new year. It's a new teacher. It's a new classroom. I don't know what it's going to look like. All of those what ifs and not knowing. And so with that, our brain kicks into action and it sends all of these different signals and cortisol through our body, which can pool in our stomach and make us sick. So there is definitely that psychological response and also the physiological response. And as parents, we hear the tummy aches, they're crying, and we want to rescue them because it hurts our hearts to see them so sad and uncomfortable.
It definitely does. Yes. Yeah, and we want to take care of them. That's the innate response as a parent. We want to take care of them.
Absolutely.
I even think about, too, like you mentioned kindergartners. We have a kindergartner starting in our family, and that just before school started, behavior was, kind of skyrocketing and very atypical for our always happy baby turned toddler turned little big kid. He says he's little big. So I feel like that's something, too, that parents can watch out for, is that uptick in some negative behaviors.
Because they can't articulate what it is. Right. And my daughters use the expression nervous-sighted. So they're excited and also nervous, and it just kind of puts you on edge. And so, yes, you will experience some behavior upticks or some things that are out of the norm anytime they're trying something new.
Right. I think you hit it on the head when you said trying something new, unsure. So unsure of plans. Oftentimes I will hear, what if? Yes. On repeat. So the what if questions. What if this happens? What if I have to go to the bathroom? What if I don't feel good? What if you don't answer your phone when they call? All these what ifs.
And anxiety is a method of seeking out certainty and comfort. And that's what our brains help us to do. And so that's what you're going to hear. And our kids are looking for certainty. They want to know what's going to happen and every detail, and comfort. And so we as adults, as hard as it is, actually have to let them experience that.
Something I want to connect with, you said we need to let them experience it. That is really, really hard as parents. But I know you've shared things that I can do as a parent in the moment. So I'm not just leaving them out to, out to stress out. What can I do as a parent in those moments where I start hearing them what ifs, because I don't know either. And I can't promise things. I'm not in their classroom.
So a big thing that we can tell them is, this is something new. We should expect worry to show up right now. Even as a middle-aged person who has worked in a school for 17 years, I still get anxious before the beginning of a school year because what is it going to be like? And so sitting with them with that and saying, this feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? And being okay with that.
Right. I think being okay with that is really hard, but being an example to them too. I always loop it back to times when I've worried, again, with school, just like you, Sarah, even as a veteran teacher. I go to the first day and I'm nervous and I have those first day nerves. But I even think about, I don't know what to expect planning a new vacation, or I don't know what to expect, getting ready for a certain activity or an event or something that I'm going to. So sharing those worries or those anxieties with them, I think, is really important. This happens to everyone.
And I think you can loop it back to past things that they have tried for the first time. And so it's, remember that first time you went to that friend's house and you felt really nervous. How did you work through that? How did you feel afterwards? So tying back to past successes when they've tried something new and helping them realize, I can do this. It is something I can push through.
And I think
It's
just
really important.
lending that empathetic ear too. Like I know at our house, we have one little guy who just gets a little bit more heightened when things are new and different. And I remember him coming into our bedroom one time and he was telling me that his stomach hurt and he wasn't sure why his tummy hurt and maybe I have to go to the doctor and maybe it's this big problem. So in his head, he had taken this stomach ache and turned it into this big medical emergency. And really when it came down to it, he was just worried about going to the dentist. And what are they going to do at the dentist, Mom? Because he had some tooth trauma. And so that was stuck in his mind, that scary experience. And so at the end of that conversation where I really didn't say much, he just did all the talking. He said, "Thanks for listening, Mom. I just needed to say it." And I really didn't have much to respond to. I mean, I just let him say all of the things. And then it was, "Thanks, Mom, for listening. I just needed to say it." And he's 9, so that, different response than if he were 4 or 5 or 3 or 15. But
Well, and a common example of what parents will do is reassure. And it's okay, or they rescue. And so that might, at the dentist, you had to go, but in a situation where it might be a birthday party, for example, and a child is really nervous to go. What happens with the cycle of worry is that it is, like I said, anxiety is seeking out that certainty and comfort. And so if I feel uncomfortable, I'm going to have a physical reaction and I might scream, yell, cry. How we normally respond is to rescue them from that. So, okay, you don't have to go. Right. But what happens is that reinforces that when I have this reaction, then I have the sense of relief because I got out of it. And that only exacerbates the anxiety. So when we see a lot of school refusal, kids who are very anxious to come to school, oftentimes parents will say, well, I'll just keep them home a day. It'll be fine. It'll be a mental health day. I'll keep them home. And what that does is it makes coming to school the next day that much harder because yesterday I cried and I had a stomach ache and I got out of it. So now I'm going to up the ante because I really don't want to get there. And the truth of the matter is once they're here, and I know I've seen some of you parents, I know that your hearts break when they're crying and they're clinging to you, but I can't tell you the number of times that we have scooped them up and we love them so much. And within about 10 minutes max, they are smiling, they are participating with their friends, and they're having a great day. So as hard as that is, not to rescue, but sit with them and listen. Yep, this is something new.
And I think, Leah, you and I can speak to that as moms and teachers too. And Sarah, you too as a counselor and mom, like all of us, that's exactly what happens. Like the kids are, if they're having a rough morning, it's hard to get them out of the car. They don't want to come to school. They're feeling, I feel sick. I miss my mom. I miss my dad. That just, yes, it stabs you in the heart a little bit, but they are, the teachers in your child's life are a safe grown-up that they can trust, that will love them like their own, and will be a good distraction even to get them in the room and with their friends. So,
and one way you can respond when they get home then, if it has been an anxious day, is I was reading an article saying, we as parents, we miss them so much and we want them to know that we miss them so much that day. But to say, gosh, I thought about how much fun you were having today. Tell me about it. Instead of dwelling on the anxiety piece or how hard it was, to, and yes, we miss them, but talking about them like, I was thinking about how much fun you had today. What friends did you sit by? Turning that into a positive, because that is going to strengthen that bond and let them talk about their day in a positive light too.
I think of how empowering that is. They just did something that was super anxious for them. They had strong feelings. Maybe it was a stomach ache. Maybe it was crying, and they did it. And they got through it. And I think when we rescue them, we are telling them without saying the words, oh, you can't do this. I need to
Yes.
take care of this for you.
Yes.
And I just think as an adult now, but as a kid, I was such a worrier. And oftentimes we didn't talk about what we worried about. And I think now just simply having that conversation and saying, that's okay. You can feel nervous. I'm going to walk you to the door. I'm going to be here to support you. And you're going to do it. Growing up, we named it a swimming tummy. So I still joke about this with my own kids that when mom gets worried, she has a swimming tummy because my biggest worry was swimming lessons. So I think connecting it for them, like you said, is so powerful.
Modeling that, if you have a
Modeling
big meeting that day, if you have something that you're worried about, gosh, I'm feeling really worried right now. And showing them that worry doesn't go away either.
Right. And empowering them to face it and go through it. And then it's one more notch that you can go back to the next worry. Remember, you were so worried going to the first day of kindergarten or the first day back at school in third grade. And you did it.
And one thing that we do at the elementary level for all of our school counselors is working with kids to understand their brains and how they're wired to help them. And so even phrasing it positive, wow, look what your brain did. It had that reaction because this is something new and it's here to protect you. And you got through it. Look how resilient you are. Look how brave you are. And it's great. And really, stress prepares your body to do something big.
Yes.
It alerts you so that you're able to participate, and it makes sure that you are on alert and able to learn. So it gets your body ready. I think our music teacher, Mr. Tilke, had said something to our students before a concert. I mean, there's a great example.
Right.
If you're feeling nervous right now, it's because you really care and you want to do a good job. And so your body is getting you ready to do that good job. So not always talking about stress in that negative way either.
Right. I like how you said stress-sighted. Say that again.
Nervous-sighted.
Nervous-sighted.
I love that.
I love that too, because oftentimes we have more than one feeling at a time. And teaching the
100%.
kiddos that can also add to the jumbled feeling because you're feeling multiple things at a time. Some of the things that we had listed here, new teacher, new expectations. I think it's okay to say, you know what? Think of all the teachers you've had. They've been kind. They've been nice. I bet this teacher will be just like that. We have no reason to worry that you won't have friends in your classroom or that your classroom won't be friendly. Thinking about giving them opportunities to practice. If they have those what ifs about what if I can't go to the bathroom, or what if I forget to bring my lunchbox? Okay, well, what would you do?
Yeah, or like walking to the bus stop.
Right.
Or I think that like meet the teacher is so important. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. But taking that time to come to your space and look, where am I going to sit? Where do I put my backpack? Where do I line up when I come in from recess? Those kinds of things.
Right. And
Running
you
through
just
a
raise
schedule
your
for middle
hand.
school.
You raise your hand and ask your teacher.
Right.
Your teacher is there to help you. I always say it to my students, I am just like a fill-in. Mom and dad can't be here, but I can help you. Let me know what I can do to help you. But I think giving them time to practice at home, I think especially for the littles, practice with buttons, zippers, helping them feel really confident and independent when it comes to those things, packing their own lunch boxes, packing their own backpacks, all really great ways to help them to feel more confident and to feel more independent.
Another big one that parents can do at this level is avoid rescuing them. So we'll have a student who forgets their lunchbox. And I understand if students have allergies or certain nutritional needs that they might need a lunchbox. But I've had two different student situations where one, the parent brings in the lunchbox, and another where the student doesn't know what to do. And so they raise their hand, they ask their teacher, we have lunch here. Your child will not go hungry. And what a great example to show that child, so when I have a problem, I can ask for help and I'll get the help I need. And to see that child work through that and to praise them as a teacher too. And I talked to the parent too. I said, great job not rescuing. I think as parents, we think that it's a reflection on us, that if we don't get the backpack there, if we don't get the project, but you guys, the price is so small right now while they're littles. If you don't get that third grade pumpkin project in, it's not the end of the world. And
Your
so that's
teacher will let you turn it in
your
the next
teacher
day.
will let you. Yes, we're reasonable people. And when
Right.
you think about as they get bigger, then the price is a little bit bigger where they have a final or they have something that's big. But letting them work through that discomfort and letting them learn that they can do it on their own is huge. So that's something I know I've noticed in the back of my car. My daughter's backpack was there, and I had to stop myself, even though I teach this, and say, don't rescue her. She's in first grade. There's no project in there that is going to make or break her post-secondary options. It will be okay.
I want to go back to something you said. We take it as a reflection on ourselves.
Yes.
We definitely do. And we're like, oh, that wasn't perfect, or they didn't have their lunch. I'll just run it back to them.
And that's our anxiety.
Yes, that water bottle was left on the counter. Oh, I got to drop that off. And really letting them learn to go through these little moments with us as their safety net
Yes.
will only increase their ability to handle harder moments as they get older. And we're not right there.
Yes. And you have a whole building of helpers. I mean, what a
Yes.
great situation to have a problem in.
Right? Right. A whole bunch of people who care about children and make
Yes.
it their job. You're so right.
Well, and we talk so much in like younger grades, especially, but I think all of elementary school, that the who are the people in our school that you can trust? Like I know, Sarah, you take time at the beginning of the year to go through all of the kids in our school and just say, who are 2 grown-ups that you can trust and go to when you have a problem or if something's happening at school or at home. And I think all of our kids can name at least
Yes.
2 grown-ups, which is really great. So just pointing that out, that there is a whole safety net here that doesn't have to be just mom and dad. I think my husband and I have had a conversation about that rescuing piece. Like, we don't want our kids to fail. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable because uncomfortable is hard. But then stepping back and thinking, okay, we're not helping them. We're not giving them the tools or helping them practice what to do. So even with the best intentions, I think it's just hard. You have to really step back and say, okay, this is not an emergency. The lunchbox can sit in the car and it might be stinky. That'll be the only problem at the end of the day in the car when it's hot. But just that changing the dialogue in your home to not make worry a big, heavy thing, but casually talk about it. Bring it up as it comes up. Make sure that you're, that language flip of not saying, don't worry, you don't need to worry about that, because whether that's true or not, depending on the situation, worry is normal.
And it's counterintuitive as parents to not rescue them from that. Because when they're little and infants, it's that whole, like, when do I start to let go? When do I start to let them have those discomforts? And so letting go of that, Allison, and catching yourself, I think it really helps if you have another adult in your house who also has done some work with this, so that you can catch each other on that. Like, ooh,
Yes.
I think
Ooh.
you're rescuing.
Yes.
In a
Try a
loving way.
different way.
In a loving way.
Sarah, something you've done, and my husband and I have taken this class, is you've done book talks. And one of the book talks was Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents. And not only was it amazing, and we really loved the book, but it was really powerful to go through it together, because we would sit there and we would mute your screen and then like look at each other like, that's totally you. Oh, that's totally you too. And so just, we all grow up in different homes and then come together and try to parent together. And so you're, of course, going to bring different anxieties to the table that then affect your children. So
And I will tell you, no matter what elementary school you are at, there are your school counselors there do offer these, or they join together. So I know Kelly Curtis at EP Rock has done a ton of work with us too. She's the one who, and I did it with her. And so we've got a lot of parents who have gone through, and this book is probably our favorite because it's so practical and it's such a great conversation to have. So it is available on Amazon. It's by Reed Wilson and Lynn Lyons, and we just really like it as a resource for our families.
Yeah, same thing as you, Leah. We read the same thing and went through your book study, Sarah, and it was really eye-opening to me. There were a couple of things in the book where it was not being surprised when worry shows up. Like, we do act like it's a big surprise and this big thing, but it does happen all the time.
Why did that surprise you?
Yeah, why did
It's something new.
Right. But it can be anything from finding a parking place in a city that you don't know as a grown-up, or like there are things all the time that come up, or getting to the grocery store in time to pick up my kids from soccer or football practice. All of those things are just little, but we should be expecting that feeling, that nervous-sided or that nervous or anxious feeling to happen. And so I think reading this book was very applicable to our real life, and it was scientifically based, of course, and was really great in that way, but it was not hard to think, oh, I can do this with my kids. I can talk about worry this way. I can help coach them when they feel like they're worried about losing their soccer ball at soccer tryouts, or they don't know where their backpack is going to be after they have basketball practice. Like, coaching them through it and not rescuing them at the end.
And that's what's great about this book is it gives you things to say. So as you were talking about in the
Yes.
beginning, when my child's worried and you just sit there with them, you want to say something. And this book gives some really great advice on what you can say or show them or explain to them.
And not just say, oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry.
be fine.
Don't worry. I know that's how I was raised. Oh, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't worry about it. Something that this book does that we loved is it talks about naming your worry and talking to it. And so we have named my daughter's worry Bob. And so it kind of
Great name.
makes it a little funny then because I'll say, tell Bob now is not a good time.
Yes.
You are going to have a great day and you don't have time for Bob in your life right now. And so it kind of brings a little like silly factor to it that she can be like, yeah, okay, Bob, not today. So it does help.
Yeah, at each of our elementary buildings, every school counselor runs groups on anxiety and worry. And so one of our other lessons is naming your worry monster. So in my years of running that, we've had so many fun names. Mine is Betsy, I tell the students. And so I have to kind of boss Betsy back. And I have to say, Betsy, I need to go to sleep right now. I need you to sit on the couch. I'll pick you up in the morning and you can help me do my day tomorrow. And the kids giggle, but as they start to see what their catchphrase can be at Bob or I had just wonderful names that kids have come up with. It's really important to name it because then the child sees that it's not them. It's not who they are. It is their worry and it's something outside of them that they can push back on. One book that I highly recommend is Hey Warrior by Karen Young, especially for our older students, because it puts the worry monster in that position of being your friend and it just really wants to squeeze you tight and protect you. But how you have to say, hey, worry monster, or Bob, or Betsy, or whatever it might be. I'm okay right now. I'm looking around. I'm really glad you're here to protect me because, gosh, I would really need you in a lot of situations. But right now, I don't need you. So that's a great way to visualize it. And it's a great conversation starter with your child to say, so what would you name yours?
Yeah. I do remember a student I had too that naming the worry wasn't enough for her. So she had a worry monster that she made with you, Sarah. I remember this. It was a Kleenex box, and I don't remember what she named it if there was, but it was very elaborately decorated. And for her, she would feed the worries to that monster.
Sometimes,
and so,
writing it down and
writing it
feeding
down.
it can be helpful for those kids who like to write, and it's more tactile.
And then it was a good tool for me as the teacher, instead of her or any student, this could be anybody, but this particular student wanted to tell me everything they were worried about, when it happened, on the minute, every minute. And so this helped me then. I could say to her, well, the worry monster and I talk at the end of the day, and I will make sure to address your worries with the worry monster. And then if there was something that she had written down that maybe needed to have a phone call home or me to talk to her, I could do that, but I could kind of pass on the ones that said, I don't know what to do with my pencil's dull. Like that was a worry for her, but then I could coach in the moment that situation instead. So
Great book suggestion and activity suggestion. All of those are great ideas.
It's easy to do at home, too. You can make your
Yes.
own worry monster at home. Just a Kleenex box and some googly eyes, and you're set.
There you go.
construction paper,
Who
markers.
doesn't love googly eyes? A couple other books I had listed here, Wemberly Worried.
Yes.
And Lena's Shoes Are Nervous, both back to school specific too. So great books that you could pull out or check out if you wanted something to read at home as your kiddo is getting back to school. So we are so happy that you could be with us today. I really believe we gave you a lot of ideas. Thank you, Sarah, for being here. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So anxious kids, anxious parents, and knowing that you in the classroom, in the schools, Sarah, do so much. I think that's great to know that our Hudson Schools has such knowledgeable school counselors. We're just so grateful for you.
And that's what I was going to say. If you have more questions or any resources, all of our counselors have these books that we can share with you. Both the Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents book we can check out to you, as well as some of the children's books. So please reach out to your school counselor. We've got a ton of information for you, and we are here to help support you.
Thank you
All right,
so
thank
much.
you. Remember, in order to grow, your child has to expect to feel anxious and worried from time to time. You can help build stamina and independence rather than anxiety for a successful school year by showing empathy to worries when they come up, being consistent in routines and expectations, and being a model for your child. As always, reach out to your child's teacher or school counselors for support.
We have a lot more conversations ahead in our Parenting with Pride series. You can find the Hudson School District Podcast Library on our website, hudsonraiders.org, under the Families tab, and on Spotify. If you have questions, send an email to connections@hudsonraiders.org.